Hi, this is Uncle Matt's D&D Studio. I'm Matt Finch, and this is going to be part 3 of my conversation with Jim Raggi of Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. And now we are moving on. This part we tend to do reminiscences about the OSR. Here we go. Well, I think that the OSR in general is very, very popular to some degree. I mean, people have different views of what it is. In fact, I just recorded a video that's just a quick introduction for someone who's heard the term and doesn't know what it means. But I mean, I think it's become a very powerful force that we started out, in 2006. Breaking in right at this point in the video, I managed to say something that made me sound like an incredibly arrogant asshole. So I'm breaking in, cutting it out. I can do that because it's my show, and now we're moving on.
Well, I think the publishing side is the whole thing, because I know Hackmaster did the like D&D clone thing. Was it 2000, 2001? But no one else could get their hands on it. Same thing with Castles and Crusades in 2004. It's like, oh, here's an old school-ish kind of thing, but it wasn't something that the community could get their hands in. Yeah, 2006. It was Gonerman and then you guys. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That was just so. Yeah, that I think that was everything, that people could take it and then do their own things with it. But I do think that the second key to that, though, was Labyrinth Lord, when they were explicitly very commercial. Because basic fantasy, that it's like nothing can be profit seeking for that. I think they still have that. If you do things for basic fantasy, it's still got to be at cost, no profit seeking for that. And
Basic fantasy is when we said Chris Gonerman,
yeah,
that was his thing, which I think
sorry,
I can't remember whether that came right before. I think it came after.
No, I think he early 2006 for basic fantasy, and then Osric came out end of summer. Does that sound right?
Oh God, I don't remember.
I think they were first getting their thing out there, though, but it wasn't a clone. I think what got the attention was you guys saying this is first edition,
Yeah.
that, and I just, yeah, and then the controversy that came with the whole close clone thing. But you guys were still, people could publish commercial goods. Because I remember Advanced Adventures, well, you kicked that off for Expeditious Retreat Press. That was right out of the gate. But Osric is like, you guys didn't want Osric itself to be a commercial concern. And
Right.
I think it was Labyrinth Lord explicitly. It wasn't exactly crowdfunding, but they were charging like $50 for an edition of the book to get Labyrinth Lord into distribution, which I think, well, for me, was an inspirational step. It's like, oh yeah, you can be a small publisher and start penetrating those avenues. We don't have to be a corner internet thing. So
I think that was
yeah.
part of my strategy too with Swords and Wizardry. It was not so much based on money making, but it was based on the idea that just looking out there at Osric versus Labyrinth Lord and seeing that people want to have a company. They want to have a thing that's out there that they know it's in print. There are people publishing for it. That sort of feeling that it's not really so much out of print, that it's a supported thing with a company behind it. And that was sort of the direction I headed with Swords and Wizardry. Although my goal really was to just get old, OD&D type gaming into the mainstream. But that was something that I learned from seeing Labyrinth Lord, was the fact that there is a real value to people for seeing a company behind something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So then after that, it was like off to the races. What are there? Well over 100 OSR cloney games out there now, and some of them do well, and a lot of them are just, I don't know, print on demand kind of things that just kind of get lost in the wilderness. But yeah, a lot of different things, and it's amazing because I know if you're not in this scene and you look at all these things, it's like these rules are all the same. But for those of us in the trenches, they feel very, very different.
Oh yeah, no, there's a big outsider insider thing. I think with
Yeah.
the OSR, it takes a while to even learn what it's about. And I've always tried to sort of push people to organize it. And again, that's one of the things with this website idea, is that somebody who's interested in it from the outside will at least have some sort of pathway through the
Yeah.
thorns on the roses.
Yeah. Although it's good luck hurting those cats, though. I mean,
Well, no, I'm not
we
going to try
can't
and hurt.
agree on anything.
I can't hurt the cats, but what I can hurt
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
is the is the is the newcomers.
yeah,
Here's the way that you get to the different cat corrals.
yeah. But it's so much fun though. The years of being told, liking old school D&D and doing that, and being told, oh, nobody cares, you're a dinosaur, yeah, everything's so much better in gaming now, and just watching some of those people turn.
Mhm.
That is the best. It's like, oh yeah, there's stuff here to like.
Well, and not just the people. I mean, eventually, Wizards of the Coast
Yeah, yeah,
turned.
yeah,
Because fifth edition, when you look at it and compare it to third edition, it's like they were listening to us.
yeah. Oh, that was scary though. It was the things that, since I started as a business, the two things that have really scared me were Dungeon Crawl Classics and fifth edition D&D, because I was thinking, oh great, these, this is what's gonna cut me off at the knees. That they're, you know, Dungeon Crawl Classics was just gonna, be a more visible kind of weirdness kind of thing, and Dungeons and Dragons fifth edition, if they're gonna have more back to the basics rules, is that just gonna squash everything? And it's just like, thankfully, no. But both of those things had me worried.
Yeah, and I mean, my view on it too is that because of the fact that fifth edition has got a bunch of old school elements reintroduced to it, that my approach is that there's actually a corner of the old school Renaissance um, where it's kind of like a Venn diagram. Some of the
Yeah,
fifth edition players really fit into the OSR, and then obviously you've got the parts of the OSR that are really not like fifth edition, but clearly the people who are using the actual old rule books. But I think there's some overlap there
yeah,
that's really a potential. I mean, if you want to talk business, it's a market, but if you want to talk
yeah.
community, then it's an overlap where people can talk.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that tell me they do Lamentations Adventures with the D&D fifth edition rule set,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
it's amazing because I'm amazed. I mean, I do some new things with the Lamentations core rules, and I did the best I could as far as the presentation and making it an actual thing to have. But it surprises me that it is right up there in one of my top two selling items. And every time at a convention someone wants to check out the game and the rule book is the thing they go for, I'm like, oh, you also want to get an adventure or something. Here, Tower of the Stargazer's cheap. Just not just the rules, because I'm always scared they're just going to just see the similarities to other things and not any of the differences.
Well, plus
But
rules don't really establish. I mean, they do to a
yeah,
degree
yeah,
establish the feel of things, but adventures is really where you see this
yeah,
is what you do with this rule set, and
yeah,
here's where you really see the differences in there. I mean, I've had a lot of people look at the swords and
yeah,
wizardry rules and say, well, there's only combat in this game. It's like, yeah, that's
yeah,
because there's
yeah,
not rules for the other stuff. That's the whole
yeah,
point. There's not rules for the other stuff.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, we get a lot of that, especially since most of the limitation stuff is really combat shy. At least how I write it. There's not a lot of options, or like, well, there are options, but there's not a lot of places where it's going to be the standard. You kick in a door and there's some orcs, and you're going to have a fight now. And Yeah, because well, I don't know if you want to go into game design philosophy
Sure,
more
let's
than
go into
yeah,
game design philosophy. Talk about your game design philosophy. We're
game
gonna
design
eventually
philosophy.
I'm gonna be breaking this up into more than one video because the
Okay.
attention span is gonna be less than is roughly I think about 10 minutes on it. So this is gonna get broken up. So